Grab your tea, grab your coffee, and if you're vegan, grab your water because I don't discriminate. Welcome back to Chit Chats with Charity. My name is Charity, like love and donations, and I accept both. So often we hear about traditional gender roles in politics, in the church, and in society as a whole. It's okay for women to get chocolates and flowers and be taken out on cute dates, but what about men? This show will crack down on the barriers between how men and women like to be affirmed and loved. So let's take a look at what these men had to say. Thank you guys so much for joining me on the panel. So first off, I have JAYCEE. Then I have Trey, and I have Dylan. Yes, thank you guys for coming on the show. Also, before we can get into how do you guys like being affirmed, do you guys know what affirmation is?
Well, I looked up a definition of affirmation, and first definition, the action or process of affirming something or being affirmed. Second definition, emotional support or encouragement. So. Yes.
Yes. Have you taken like the 5 love language quiz?
Yeah.
Okay. Where does like word of affirmation like fit on your list?
That's pretty high for me. I would say number 1.
Number 1?
Yeah, I took the test a while ago, but I don't think I've changed much. I think affirmation is always number 1. My choir director would always tell us there's a difference between encouraging and affirming. And when you encourage someone, you want an end goal. But when you affirm someone, you think they're enough. You're happy with them the way they are.
Okay. I'm like a number 3.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a number 1.
Wow. Okay, so like for those that don't know what word of affirmation is, pretty much just saying like if you do a good job at something, or if like you're having a hard day and like, babe, boy, you look good. What'd you do to your hair? You got a new haircut? So it's like affirming them in that ways. What ways in particular do you guys like to be affirmed?
I think with what I do, so like in a marriage sense, it would be like my career. As for right now, just feeling like the things that I invest my time and energy in are appreciated. Like my parents and stuff, that stuff doesn't really matter to me. But like when people affirm me and the things that I do, it's worth it and it's producing a result, that's where I like to be affirmed.
The way I like to be affirmed kind of is kind of my actions, or what I do, like rather than who I am, but what I do. So like, say I build a table and somebody's like, wow, that is the best table ever built. That's gonna do something good in my spirit, more than somebody commenting on like how I look or, you know.
I like to be affirmed on who I am, kinda. I don't like to be seen in a negative light because I typically wouldn't do anything to project negativity about myself. So when somebody affirms me, just to like, man, you're a good dude, that makes me feel so good.
Yeah, I feel like you can't have affirmation without love. Like, you know this the saying, I don't know, my mama used to say this all the time, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I don't necessarily agree with that because I feel like words hold a lot of power. I feel like I could sit here and be like, Dylan, them shoes is whack. And it will like mess you up a little bit. Even if you're like, oh, I don't care, I could brush it off. I feel like, you know, words hold so much power. So what do you think the Bible says about how we should love one another?
I mean, along the words thing, I mean, death and life is in the power of the tongue. So obviously, even at face value, that's already saying that words are powerful. But also, like, yeah, just loving holy, loving your neighbor as yourself. If you wouldn't want someone to tell you that your shoes look terrible, then don't do it to someone else. I think the Bible's pretty clear on that.
He just said it. Love your neighbor as yourself. I had the scripture. It's in Matthew, chapter 22. If anybody wants to fact check us, Jesus says that it is the second most equal and important commandment to the first, which is love the Lord with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. So loving your neighbor as you love yourself is very important, and that's how I feel like it should be applied to all genders. Like everybody you should be loving her as you love yourself, and she should be loving him as she loves herself. You feel what I'm saying?
Well, how can I'm not even gonna say how can they or she or he or you expect to love someone as you love yourself if you don't love yourself?
You can't. you can't do it effectively. I
Yes.
don't
Okay.
believe. And if you do, I believe it's fake. I don't see how you can genuinely love somebody else when you don't love yourself.
That's deep.
I think you can go through the motions, you can do the actions, so you can express care about someone, so you can like give them stuff when they're sick, or you could ask them how they're doing. But loving them, I feel like that's a connection you have to establish first, and you have to explore what that even means for you before you can say, oh, I love this person. So yeah, it's definitely not like a straight up easy like, oh, I love you because I bought you this gift that you really like. Yeah.
I think you can love somebody without loving yourself, but when you do that, it's just gonna wear you out. But until you like learn to authentically love yourself, who you are is gonna be a loving person, and it's just gonna flow out of you. And I think like Jesus says, you know, I'm the vine, you are the branch. Apart from me, you can do nothing. So it's kind of like connect to him, he who says he is love, and what's gonna flow out of you is love.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like since this subject is kind of touchy, because it's like easy for a woman to be complimented, but then if I compliment a guy the wrong way, it may come off as flirtatious. Like if you gave a woman like a tip of advice, what would you say that how should she affirm you without it being flirty or promiscuous?
You look good, dude. Say dude on the end. Dude will definitely change.
But don't
Free zone.
don't say buddy. That'll just totally like
no.
ruin
I've done
his-
that so many
I
times.
do not like the word buddy.
Buddy is
Fuck
like,
buddy, that kills my
it's-
ego.
yeah.
Wow, I call
Buddy,
him
son.
Bud. Is Bud just as
That's
bad?
fun. That's playful. It's fun.
I wouldn't do bud either.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
I just wouldn't.
Well-
dude is safe for sure.
Thank you guys so much for like being vulnerable, for coming on and just being able to speak with me. Because I was so curious about this topic, I was like, well, what better way to like get a man's perspective than to ask a man about how they feel? So I took it to the streets. So let's see what these men had to say. Dang, that's hot. It's so common for women to be affirmed by men, either by saying, whoa, you're a woman of great integrity, or girl, you look beautiful. But the subject gets a little bit touchy when the roles are reversed. How can women affirm men and break this stigma? My name is Charity Bell, and this is the Word on the Street.
I feel like women can affirm men and like telling us like our personality's good, telling us we're funny, telling us we look good, shoot, all of that.
I feel like men need less words of affirmation, but it's still a nice touch, and I feel like it would go a long way, even if it's something small.
They can affirm men by complimenting us when we get a haircut. I know I love when my women compliment me when I get a fresh haircut.
Women can affirm men through not just the affirmations and like words, but in their like physical touch. I know that like sometimes I prefer that someone like bump my arm a little bit sometimes.
Women can affirm men by pointing out the small things that men do that men, they act like they're not doing it for women to notice, but like a man's not doing his hair for a woman not to notice, you know what I'm saying? Or they're not buying the new Jordans for a woman not to say, oh, that looks good. I like the way you're that style, you know? Words of affirmation is like my last love language, but that doesn't mean that when somebody affirms me, I'm like, oh, I don't care that you said that. No, it's still like, makes me have a better day, honestly.
Now that we know that men also enjoy receiving affirmation, when we discover our differences, we can also uncover our similarities. My name is Charity Bell, and that is all for the Word on the Street. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this panel. So first off, we have Justin. Then we have my dog, my cousin, my blood, Rob. And then we have Reggie joining us on the panel. So thank you guys so much for coming. First off, since we're talking about affirmation for men, I want to know what makes you feel like a man.
Personally, it's just compliments in whatever I do. You know, just as a man, men are very prideful. They have very prideful nature. So we're always competitive. We're always competing against somebody else. So if a female says, "Oh, you did a really good job with this," or like, "I see the effort you put forth," it just further, affirms that the effort I put forth and kind of that competitive nature is almost fed into a little bit. But sometimes that's what you have to do to make the opposite gender feel better.
Like boost their ego a little bit,
Exactly.
gas them up. Yeah, okay. I'll be learning. What about you, Rob?
Like Justin said, like gassing me up a little bit. Like, shoot, if I go out looking nice, I want to get some kind of compliment or something. Like, it just shows that I'm actually doing good with what I'm doing.
Can you tell when it's like not genuine? Like, can you tell if she's flirting, if she's dead serious, or if she's just like saying it just to say it?
Definitely.
I don't know, that's kind of, you could tell when it's fake, but I think for men, it's hard to distinguish just because of that, once again, that prideful nature. It's, we want to consider everything flirting. So if someone says, oh, you look nice, like, oh, she wants to get with me, how it is. But obviously that's not always the case. So, it's kind of that discernment of, I think as you get older, you start to discern that a little more, a little better.
What about you, Reggie?
I agree with everything they said, but I know a lot of men, they like recognition. So like recognition in any form, any way, especially from a woman, especially from your woman, it don't hurt. So that's one thing I
like that recognition. I wasn't expecting that. So when you say recognition, what do you mean for the ladies that just don't know what that is?
Okay, so recognition as like giving us credit. Like if you see something that you know that we're doing, like we like to know that you notice what we're doing. So like we like being noticed. Recognition, being noticed.
Yeah. Got you. With that being said, what do you think the Bible has to say about like the man and his role?
I think it's very clear. Jesus says for a husband to love his wife like he loves the church.
Sure did.
And how did Jesus love the church? Jesus loved the church with his whole life. Wherever he went, he was always with the church. He was always, even when he wasn't in a building in the synagogue, he was with thousands of people. That's church. So, Jesus time and time again shows his love for the church. And I think it's very important that a husband time and time again shows love for his wife. I think, you hear the horror stories of people being married 20 years and that love isn't there anymore. I think consistency is key with that.
What about y'all?
I agree. In Genesis 2:24, it says, "Therefore a man shall leave his father, his mother, and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." So once y'all like commit to those vows, like you can't be worried about, like, it's okay to worry about your parents and how they're doing and whatnot, but like you can't be like a mama's boy. Like you got to take that position and be the man of the household, be that leader, and love on your wife and show her some affection.
Right.
So that's what the Bible has to say about that.
I think one thing that both of you guys kind of pointed out was just like being able to be joined with your wife. And if you didn't know what that really meant, sex. So I was in class, we had a professor and she told us about this guy named, a pastor named Kurt Seberg up in, it's like a Victory Church, so kind of like how it is in Lakeland, but in Pennsylvania. And he was saying that like the man's greatest prized possession isn't the ability to have sex, because anybody could have sex. It's his ability to feel honored and respect. And I was thinking, well, like, what does that mean for a lady? Do you guys think it's, okay, obviously sex is important because we gotta reproduce or we're gonna die, so duh. But like, other than just sex, in what other ways can women respect you guys, honor you, make you feel good?
I think a key thing in today's society is really following the biblical order God set. God is always first, but he also has men and then women. Now, how I think that's been taken out of context a lot. I think, men use that to say, oh, we're above women, so anything I say goes. But the Bible is very clear, unless the man is under God, unless what the man is saying is from God's will, then the woman does not have to adhere to it. But also women need to understand that, and if what the man is saying is under God's will, they need to be able to submit, because if not, then they're messing up the order. And I think a lot of, especially with the women are strong, women are, free, I think they feel less free when they have to submit. I think now we go into women's pride. I think their pride then gets a little damaged when they have to submit to their husband, which messes up the biblical order and how God set things up.
Yeah. So like what you're saying is like, you ever hear females be like, oh, my man don't wear the pants in a relationship, I wear the pants. What do y'all think about the concept of my man gonna wear the pants, but I'm gonna wear the belt? You feel me? Because we neck and neck, we up there together, but it's like, I'm gonna hold you down as you hold me down. That makes sense?
I think
You like that?
I think that's key. I think men have so much responsibility. Time and time again in the Bible, it's if the family's failing, if they're in poverty, it's always on the man.
Wow.
So I think that woman being there, I like the belt, being there to be able to support. I think that's so key and vital, because if not, then no one's going to support that man. He's going to be on his own, and he's going to feel alone in a house full of people.
Yeah.
So I think that's, is definitely key for a wife to fulfill that role of being supportive. And it even says that in Proverbs 31 as well.
Okay, spitting out the verses. Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show, for being vulnerable, and for getting down and dirty with the nitty gritty. And so thank you so much for joining us. And then, did y'all watch my YouTube video? Y'all know how to end this. Okay, y'all ready? Chit, 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 chats with charity.